Tonight's topic is about how do you feel about the separation? Because you're not only divorcing your husband, ex-husband, but you're also divorcing the family. And we were just having a chat how that impacts us, really, because it's not just one person. I mean, I had the most amazing sister-in-law. So she was married into the family, and we've stayed friends for a long time. But now I've met a partner, it's all gone a little bit weird. But I also absolutely loved his mum. His mum,
You were really close, weren't you?
yeah, so close. Loved her. And so she's just gone into hospital, and she's 90. She's doing amazing. And when she's come back to the island to see Chris and the kids and stuff, occasionally, if there's been an incident or something, even at Christmas initially, I'd spend time with them. But so yeah, so when she's in hospital, it's really tricky whether or not how you can like approach it and how far. I guess the topic is how far can you go without stepping back and going, not a part of that family anymore.
It's so hard, isn't it? Because we've said this before about co-parenting, never mind this side of it. We have no guidebook. We're in a situation we never thought we would be in, and situations come up where we're having to navigate at that time. We can't go back and look. And I think both of us have said that we've come from families where our parents are together, so we don't even have like lived experience of it. So I think we're having to make the best of what we can at the time. And that's really difficult, because if you were with Chris still, you would have I might have even gone to see her in hospital. You'd have probably sent flowers. You would have done the usual, reached out. And then now it's really difficult because, I think I'm a little bit torn on it still and still trying to navigate, because I tell the girls that although we're not together as husband and wife, we're still a family. Now, my co-parent isn't on that page. And like I said to Julie tonight, he literally drove out so he didn't have to see me. I mean, we're going through a bit of a tricky spot. So, I put that in my short. It has been really tricky. So at the moment, he's not really on that page. But in that sense, if you think we're still a family, then the extended family should almost still be a family. However, I just don't think in reality it necessarily can be. My parents particularly, they were really keen to keep a really positive relationship with my ex, really, really keen. Talked about him still being part of the family. Our wedding photo was left up for a good year or so. When they came over to Jersey in the summer, they were keen to see him if like at handover time. He didn't want that, and as time goes on, it's got a bit sad, really, I suppose, because as my ex has probably and ours relationship's got a bit tricky, and my parents have seen me upset. They're almost a bit like, well, I'm not sure how. They're still very polite. They would still keep the door open, but they've got a little bit. It's a difficult tension. So they did take the wedding photo down and replaced it with a lovely picture of me and the girls, because I've got this kind of like family wall with lots of different pictures. So, I mean, I do look like the odd one out. 4 siblings, all these wedding photos, and it's me on the beach with my kids. But I was saying to Julie earlier, when I went home this half term, it was lovely to see family, but we've got like in the spare rooms, like the family portraits you might have done for past birthdays. And like years ago when I was pregnant with Esme, so going back 14 years, and my ex is on those, obviously. And we've got this like tree where on every branch is a love heart with names of the family on, and he's on. And I found myself thinking, I don't want him on, because this is my mum and dad's house. Like, if I brought my new partner to this house, I'm not sure I want him on. But then I also caught myself thinking, but I do for the girls. He is still their daddy. He is still very much part of their family. So it is. I can't erase him. I can't erase the past. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have our beautiful kids. So, and it was a chapter, and I hope in time he can look back as well a bit more positively on it. But it's really difficult because I think I realised, I think maybe I wasn't so. I don't know. I think you're going through your own trauma through separation, aren't you? You think about you and you think about your kids because you're just in survival mode. But I think looking back, I think my parents really struggled. I think they had to grieve almost. They had to grieve that I wasn't going to be married, and then worry about that security. Is she going to be okay? Should she have tried a bit harder? No, all those conversations. They don't really know how to act or behave with him. My dad almost goes to the opposite and really, really wants to talk positively in front of the girls. My mum not necessarily as much. It's really difficult to get that balance of being I want the children to be able to talk openly about their daddy and the holidays they've done with daddy, but also there's a part of me wants to go, no, he's not part of this anymore. So it's so difficult. And on the other side of it, I see like his family's response to me, and they're not overly joyed with me. They don't
No.
want to speak to me. His niece is polite to me. She works at the sports centre, so I see her a little bit. But the others don't want to speak to me, and I get it on one level. I've hurt their brother, and he's hurting, and therefore you take it out, or you don't want to engage with that person. I get it. But I think once you get past that survival mode of your own separation, it's that ripple effect, that knock-on effect. And I think it's hard enough on a day-to-day, but then when something happens like your ex-mother-in-law, it's like, oh, well, what do we do? Like what do we send a cut? It's really difficult, isn't it?
I'm so removed from that, but I would still definitely. I did actually send a text message and just say how is she, not to her but to Chris, and say, is she okay? Because he's not communicating through me, but he's communicating through the children. So I know that she's still in hospital. So I was thinking, I want to know if she's all right, because but it's not nice to kind of like you can only do a certain amount before you feel that's not
It's
my
really
thing
difficult
anymore.
when I was, because if listeners will know, I've done this twice. We separated once before and got back together. And the first time when we separated, Steve's it's his stepmom, because his mum died years ago. So, but she was his mum in all in Germany. She was very actively involved, and grandma to the children, etc. And she died when we weren't together, and that was really difficult because I hadn't got a chance to almost say goodbye. She'd been in a nursing home before, and I would have normally gone up more. And then obviously the funeral came, and in one way I was kind of lucky because it was COVID, so only a few people could go, so the children didn't go. So I just stayed with the children, so it kind of made sense. But there's a bit of me thinking, oh, what would I have done if it hadn't been COVID? If the girls were going, I would almost want to go to the funeral to support them because they would find the funeral hard. But actually, there's no place for me at that funeral anymore because they'd be there with their daddy and not me. But then it's really hard knowing your girls are going through something that you would want to support them through. But really, that's not my place to support them. I mean, when his dad died, sadly, the couple of years after, we actually it was in the period where we were back together. So I went to the funeral with lots of people looking at me a little bit like, you weren't at the other funeral. And but at least I could be there with the girls. But it made me think, gosh, I wouldn't want them to have gone through that without me, because they were obviously very distressed. It was their first funeral really they'd gone to. So we've got all this to navigate, haven't we? And I'm not saying about your mother-in-law being insensitive there, but we're going to in life have family members not being with us on the other side, and that opens up for me a whole road and chapter that we haven't navigated yet, and somehow we have to figure it out, and it's really difficult.
I just think now I'm just thinking, how would you show up for your girls? So I think if it was a family member on Chris's side, I'm just thinking now, for me to rock up wouldn't be good.
No.
It would have to be, I would have to let him manage the girls, because I'd be like, I didn't want, not an elephant in the room, but I just
I know it's really difficult. I suppose it would have to just be all the time. Goes back, doesn't it? What's right for the girls? How can we support the children? But it just makes things a little bit more complicated, doesn't it, each time? And I think certainly for me, on a small island with his family all on the island, you do bump into people. That's the inevitability of it. And it's really difficult knowing that some people, because I get to that point of and Jay always tells me off for this, Jay, who we had on our last podcast, I want to sort of put my story across. I want to sort of defend myself and give my side of it. And he's like, stop, you don't, they don't need, do you know what I mean? It is what it is. And why am I doing that? What's the point? You know what I mean? So it's just really difficult. And I don't think when I separated from my ex, I don't think I thought about the untangling. I think I thought about the untangling of our little life. And I think we've got to a point now where we're pretty untangled. But then I feel the second part is then the untangling of the extended families. There's going to be weddings, isn't there, that our children will be invited to that we won't go to. There'll be funerals. It'll just be, as Rosie said something the day about her cousin, and I thought, God, I didn't even know he was doing that, which I don't need to know. I don't need to know, but it's really strange
No,
because of the time that I would have known everything
everything,
about it.
everything. Yeah.
It's yeah, it's another untangling, I think, isn't it? And I think it's another reason that's why I like this co-parenting community that we're developing, because I think it'd be really great. And certainly anyone's very happy to comment below if there's ways that people have navigated, because it's not just navigating this co-parenting, it's then the co-familying, if that's a word.
Yeah, it goes beyond. It goes beyond, doesn't it? Just you two, and then it stems to the family, or well, or five, or how many children you've got. Then it goes beyond to grandparents, because when I go to my mum and dad's, they've still got our wedding chair up in the air. First walk in.
Yeah, see, I had to get my sister to help me with that one, because my parents wanted it up because they wanted the girls to know that he was still very much part of the family, which I totally get and respect and love them for it. But it just triggered me too much having a picture of our wedding day. It wasn't just that it was a picture for him. He's in different pictures because he was there at family celebrations, and that's fine. As much as it's weird because it goes, oh, there he is on the wall. I like looking down on me as I sleep in this room. This is a bit bizarre, but I'm okay with it because he was there at a celebration and it captures a moment. But our wedding photo was something different because I thought that's ended. And anyway, so my sister helped actually a little bit and encouraged, I think. But it was really difficult for my parents, and I don't think and I don't want to say I was selfish because I think that comes with a negative, but to survive, I had to just think about me and the girls. I couldn't think about anybody else. I didn't have the headspace or the energy or the emotional capacity to think about anybody else. But when I think about that, I think, God, as a parent now myself, thinking, God, taking down this wedding photo, which summed up a day my parents, financially really helped with, was so happy that I'd married. I had such a lovely day. And then they're taking it down and putting it away and putting a picture of me and the girls. And I don't know, all those worries they must have about me still. Like that, I mean, I think, God, I'm 43. My parents still worry about me like I worry about Rosie. And I think it's never ending. I don't think I really had any sympathy necessarily or awareness of how they felt throughout it. Because I think they were grieving a little bit, and their worries and their sadness around it. I'm not sure I gave that enough thought. I don't think you can necessarily. I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I don't think you can. I think you just have to do what you can do. But they've also had this, they've had to tell their friends, haven't they, that their daughter's divorced. They've had to tell their friends that I don't see my girls every day. Do you know, it's difficult, and they're in a world where most of their friends are together, and it's quite, do you know what I mean, when they get together, oh, how are your children? Like one's a head teacher doing well, oh yeah, the other one's divorcing. Like it's not great, is it? Like, and it must be hard for them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. It's a way of looking at it, isn't it? But if your parents have known you and the journey that you've been on, they may look at it and think, Katie's, I don't know. I know that generation don't look at things like this, but for me, it's like she's starting a new chapter.
Yeah.
It's
and you know,
positive.
they are. I mean, I got really upset when I went home, if I'm honest, just about lots of things, mum and dad. I think sometimes when you stop and have a bit of rest, then it all sometimes like throws you. And everyone was being nice to me, and I just started crying. I was with my mum, my dad, and my brother. And I was like, I could see people thinking, what? And it just hit me, and I started saying how guilty I felt about, me and guilt, but guilty I felt about the relationship breaking down. I didn't want to let mum and dad down and all this. And they was just the most, I mean, they were incredible parents. I love them with everything. And they were like, Katie, we're so proud of you. You look what you're doing. You've like built like this future. You've got the girls with you. You've got a great job. Like it wasn't working, the marriage. We're really proud of you. Look, like they're really excited for the future. And whether they mean it or, and they probably do mean it, but with a touch of worry underneath, that didn't come across at that point. And I just thought, God, how lucky am I? Because they haven't experienced it. It's certainly something that they wouldn't wish for me, in the sense that particularly around financial security, that they know it's difficult to be on your own, isn't it? Particularly in Jersey, it's not easy. It would have been easier to stay with him in that sense. But I think they are proud of me, and and I don't think they are angry in the way, or I don't, all those things that I built up, I don't think is true.
No.
They just want to support me, and they're just sad in the sense that well, sad it didn't work out, obviously, because we all are. There's a sadness when anything comes to an end.
Yeah.
But I think their greatest thing is just that worry that, will you be okay? Do you know what I mean? They're just worried, as we would be if it was our children. And I just thought, oh, we are lucky. But I did think in that moment, it's a big thing for everyone, this. When someone gets divorced in a family, it's not just that couple. It's the ripple effects, isn't it?
That's the thing. That's the message, isn't it? The ripple effect and how it affects you. Like the friendships that you had with your sister or the brother-in-law, the family parties, the nieces and nephews that you saw born, and you have no. I mean, it doesn't feel right to continue the contact because it feels like there's a little bit of uneasiness around it. So you think, how do I just cut it? Do I cut that? And it is difficult because, as you say, you've hurt. If it's you, then you've hurt their uncle, you've hurt their son. I mean, this all the back information that nobody needs to know about at that point. Because at that point, you've made that decision. That is not a snap decision. That's come from years and years and years and years and years of analysing and making sure that you've made the complete and utter right decision. You know? Yes. So when that happens, I think you psychologically, although you've not even thought about it, have psyched yourself up to knowing that is a cut-off point with other families.
I read about that actually, and it was saying that typically women, this is a generalization, so not to offend anyone out there, because this is a generalization, but generally women, because they, like you say, have taken years, and I know certainly that was in and we tried again and got back together, but have taken years to come to that decision. Often when they get divorced, a lot of the grieving has already happened because that was in that. Whereas often men at that point are really often, and again, like I say, I'm not generalizing or don't want to offend anybody, but often are quite shocked, and then their grieving starts then. And I think that's really true. And I think, I remember thinking that the first time we split up, when I knew that my ex's mother-in-law was poorly at this time, so obviously before she died. And I do remember thinking, gosh, I wonder if I'll ever see her again. And I got this wave of like sadness, because we used to have a giggle all the time, and she'd compare him to his dad, who obviously she was married to, and I thought, God, I'm never going to know about that anymore. Like, and it's sad because as we get older, there's people that you might not see again. And at the moment, my ex is trying to still sell his dad and stepmom's property, and I know I could help. Like, I know I could help because they're all finding it quite overwhelming. No, and it is obviously all the legalities of it all. But I'm like, well, that's not for me to help anymore. That's that family. But there's a bit of me want to just say, well, what, you can just do that, if you thought about renting and I'm really trying, because it's not for me to even comment on anymore, is it? It's that letting go, isn't it? And it's not just letting go of your relationship, it's letting go of the family. But what I find still a little bit strange is I've chosen to keep my surname because I want to have the same as the girls, certainly while they're this age. So then it's really strange, you're saying goodbye to that family, but I've still got their family name and not got my family name, my maiden name. So when you see people, I don't know, I find that really weird. I'm still kind of part of the family because of my name, but then I'm not at all. It's really, so much sort of
it's a funny one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm keeping my name too, because I've had, it's been 20 odd years I've had this name, and my children are the same name. For me to switch now would just be unusual. It would just be weird. If I use this one, that can be our next topic of conversation.
Yeah, let's do that as our next one. Oh, so much we could talk about, guys. That's why we have to meet every Wednesday, because we could spend hours. And we've got some great ideas coming up for a few new podcasts, haven't we, as well? And if nobody's seen the one we did, it was 2 weeks ago, actually, because I was away last week at home. But with our co-parenting coach, Jay, take a look at that. I also posted a short this week when things had gone a bit shit and I needed to be reminded with a friend of some of the top tips that Julie and I have been sharing. Even though we share them, sometimes we forget them, so have a little look if you can. It's only a minute, a short, just where we remind ourselves just to be kind, because like we've said throughout tonight's podcast, this is tricky. We're navigating a world that we didn't think we'd be in, and we all need to support each other. So if you've watched tonight and you think, oh, but this is how we navigate extended families, this is how I do this when I'm down, please do let us know, because we want to create that co-parenting community as well, where we can help each other, because Jules and I have got our own ideas and advice, but you guys might be further down the line. You might have had some great advice from somebody else. So please do interact in our comment section, because that really helps Jules and I. And also, if there's any content you want us to cover, put it in there, because then we can make sure that we try and talk about things. We don't have the answers, but we certainly have the real chat, and we can then make sure we cover topics that you wish that are important to you as well.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I need red wine for next week. I said to Jules, I got back from work tonight and had no red wine. Thought I had gin and I had no tonic. So I need to go buy some wine for next week. So have a great week, everybody. Take care. Bye.
Have a great week.
Oh, my cat.